second-round rookie J.J. Redick.
Jamal Murray's a good player. Jamal Murray's a good story and a good player. And listen, the Nuggets can't guard anybody, but they can score some points now.
Also from Canada. We're getting a nice prospects from Canada.
I love it. No, you're right. You're right. I didn't think about that. I'm laughing because I didn't see that one coming.
Same game, same concept. Joel Embiid over Paul Millsap. Put it down. That's a beauty. And then gets the crowd in it.
Let me tell you guys, one of the pleasures in the NBA now is being able to watch Joel Embiid. And not be, oh, how many minutes is he going to play? Oh, is he playing in this game? Man, he is truly a pleasure. Second best big man in the NBA.
And Embiid's going to play more games this year than Kyrie or Steph. I don't know how many people saw that coming with the minutes restriction.
Oh, that's a night. You should have had that on a blind reveal. Jamila, let me get that from my other show.
Andre Drummond showing off the spin move. Watch it. Putting it down.
This was a decent game last night. Detroit, I mean, they fell asleep for a couple months in the season, but I like what they're doing. Blake Griffin seemed to adapt it coming from the West Coast, playing in the same arena as the Lakers, so I'm sure he was proud of this finish last night.
Listen, and Drummond had a good defensive play late as well. Detroit should have been way better post Blake Griffin trade. This should have been a game fighting for an 8 playoff spot instead of to have the best record of non-playoff teams.
All right, new topic. Kawhi Leonard, only 8 games left in the season for the Spurs. Still no idea if, when, how Kawhi is coming back. He's only played 9 games so far, hampered by a quad injury. The Spurs have medically cleared him to play, mind you. Yesterday, we told you that teammate Tony Parker said his own quad injury was 100 times worse, and he came back to play. Now, former teammate Steven Jackson chimed in with some harsh words for Parker on the herd. Let's listen to this.
Anything that comes out in the media or anything that needs to be said or distributed down to the team, it comes from Pop through Tony and Ginobili. Now, y'all might not believe this, but the meeting that was Sosei threw up on Kawhi after the game, that came down from Pop to those guys. They didn't do that on their own. Tony don't have the balls to do that. Ginobili don't have the balls to do that. Okay, they just not outspoken guys, and I don't think nobody feared them to respect their word. Right? So that came from up top, no question. I wouldn't be surprised if this makes Kawhi want to leave. Because when your teammates going against you in the media like that and not having your back, you know that's coming from up top. Why would you want to be there?
Wow. I mean, this is mess begets mess begets mess with this organization. CC, are Popovich and the Spurs in some way being unfair to Kawhi Leonard and his injury and his decision not to play?
Well, for one, we don't know the extent of how bad Kawhi's hurt. Obviously, Kawhi's feeling as if he shouldn't be out there. I know this is a tactic by coaches, very, very successful. I know that being close to Phil Jackson and the Bulls and the Lakers with a very dear friend of mine, Ron Harper. Well, Ron Harper was a lot of time, he was the peacemaker between Kobe and Shaq and other things that they had when he was in Chicago with Pippen and Rodman. And I mean, this is not the first time in sports we've seen stuff like this. What Steven Jackson is saying, typically the coach is going to go to guys, the older statesmen, the guys who have been there the longest. We call them lieutenants. And typically they go into the locker room to be able to convey a message of what the coach or the front office is trying to say to the players and tap into information that's going to come from Kawhi that he potentially is not going to tell Pop or the organization. So I'm with Steven Jackson. When you played for an organization, when you played for a coach, you know the characteristics of the people. So you listen to them and you give them the respect of, yes, they have more intel on this situation than you. So I don't think San Antonio's being unfair. They're trying to get the player on the court. If the doctor cleared him, they're trying to get him on the court as soon as possible. Now, as far as Ginobili and Parker, he's right. They should have never talked about Kawhi to the media. They should never let that information out. That's information that we as teammates, that we have agreed that we are going to, even if we disagree, we are never going to let someone outside the family have that information.
Do you agree then with Steven Jackson that this came from Popovich, that it was sort of his edict that he laid down for these guys to be mouthpieces for
It's
the team?
one of the things that coaches do on a regular basis. So, no, I'm not surprised. It's not a matter, do I agree with Steven Jackson? Like Steven said it, all right? He's played for Pop.
And Steven has had an instance where Pop, not apples to apples, but a similar instance where Pop went to him and asked him to say something to the team that, by the way, Steven didn't believe, and Steven ended up leaving the team because of it. Steven's told this story before, but Steven was killing, I think it was Ginobili, regularly in practice, and Ginobili's confidence was down. And Pop went to Steven Jackson and said, they're not going to hear it coming from me. I need you to say to the team, you're better than me.
We're getting ready for a
playoff push. And I think the player was Ginobili. For the story, I'll make it Ginobili. I need you to say in front of the team, Manu, you're better than me. You should be playing. And Steven couldn't do it. Steven said, Coach, I can't do it. You got to cut me. And Coach did cut him. By the way, despite that, I want people to also understand this. Steven Jackson has said on the air and off the air, I'm not revealing confidences here, he loves Popovich. Yeah. That's his favorite coach. So he's not looking for a reason to take a shot at Greg Popovich here. He's simply using his insight and his history with this team to say what he believes is happening. Why I'm so glad to hear this from Steven Jackson is last week when we talked about this, it was so frustrating to me because I couldn't make sense of what was going on. And now after hearing that, I think I have a better idea of what's going on. I truly believe what's going on is this, that Pop believes once Kawhi plays in a game, once he comes back, he will realize, oh, I can do it. That Pop was trying to, initially through Pop's public comments about setting a deadline, and then through the team meeting, trying to exert enough pressure on Kawhi to get him back out on the court, because I believe Pop thinks you're going to be okay. You don't trust yourself. You don't trust the injury. But if you get out there, you'll see it. You'll experience it. I don't think Pop is trying to risk Kawhi's long-term health for this season. I think he really believes this is what's best for the player. You're not hearing it from me. Maybe you'll hear it from your teammates. That's what I think is going on.
Something along the lines of psychological warfare. And maybe there is a psychological element to it that Kawhi is both doubting his injury and his ability to fit right in and be this hero that everyone's making out to be. You know, oh, as long as we get Kawhi back, we'll definitely be fine at first round, second round. And is there a psychological component to it? Do you think as an athlete who sat out most of the season?
Psychologically, there's always a component to that. But as far as Pop trying to get Kawhi to do something with his body, listen, let me tell you something. There's not a coach that has, I don't care how many championships they've won. You've never experienced playing with that body, so there's nothing Pop would be able to get Kawhi. Kawhi knows it's better than Pop would know. Now, we're not breaking down X's and O's, but you're talking about how you feel as an athlete. I am not relying on some coach to tell me, oh, Chris, if you get through this stage, you'll feel better. No, I believe in Kawhi, and I believe what Kawhi's body is saying to him, regardless of what Pop thinks, because that is not his expertise.
But what we also do know about Kawhi Leonard, there aren't many fair knocks on him as a player, but one of the critiques of Kawhi prior to this year had been he is a guy that is not comfortable playing at less than close to 100%. There's a reason that prior to this year, only twice in his career had he even played 70 games in a season. That he's a guy that if there is a nagging
Isn't that part of San Antonio's system too? So now we're going to put this on Kawhi because they do rest their players. Mm-hmm. They err on the side of caution. That's the reason why he hadn't played a lot of games.
Kawhi is, though, the first, and I mean, just historically, he's the first young player that had the DNP rests. We had seen the DNP rests starting with Duncan in his later years, with Ginobili.
So now we're going to put it on Kawhi, though.
No. I'm not. Hold on. I'm not.
What if Pop believes in the system so much better now that he's going to start players early on that system?
And I believe that is absolutely a part of it. I'm just saying from the people that cover the team daily, which I obviously don't do, that was something you had heard prior to this season, that Kawhi was not a guy that was comfortable playing. And the Spurs, by the way, I think embraced that approach to your point, that he wasn't a guy that was going to go out there with less than 100% the way some guys would. And I think the Spurs encouraged that behavior, which is why them being juxtaposed on this, at least prior, was so confusing.
The one thing I'm not hearing from either of you is that this is the beginning of the end for the relationship between Kawhi and the Spurs. That you both feel like this is going to work itself out in some capacity.
No, I don't know that, Jenna.
Oh.
No, I don't.
Case of me putting words in your mouth. Don't mind me over here. Really?
Go ahead.
I mean, I had said a long time ago that Kawhi could leave San Antonio. Like, I'll stick by that.
All right. Talk about this some more coming up. But on the other side, is tension within the Patriots organization a good thing for business? Next on First Things First.